Okay, sige. Last meeting class, I just showed you videos on how the heart works. I have uploaded the videos already in Schoology, so you may rewatch it if you want to review on how our heart works, just like when it receives blood from the veins carrying the oxygenated blood, it will again receive the blood via the atrium, the right atrium, and then going to the right ventricle. You need the tricuspid valve there for the blood to flow. And then from the right ventricle, the blood will be passed on to the lungs, entering via the pulmonary valve. Okay, so in the lungs, the blood becomes oxygenated. And then when it becomes oxygenated, it will be returned to the heart via the left atrium. Okay, and then from the left atrium via the mitral valve, the blood will be passed on to the left ventricle. And from the left ventricle going to aorta, and that will be through the aortic valve. And when it reaches aorta, that means we are now distributing the blood to the rest of the body. Okay, so the body gets enough oxygen supply. Now, this happens simultaneously, class, and before our heart beats, we need electrical conductance. We need source of electricity. Therefore, if we have problems with the electrical conductance of our heart mismo, we will have a condition. So, this is another cardiovascular na condition na kasi we are done with hypertension. Remember, that is the increase in the blood pressure. And then we are done with the heart failure. It's when the heart fails on its function, and that is to deliver enough oxygen to the body. This time, our problem is about the conductance, the electrical conductance of the heart for it to beat and pump blood in the body. So we call that cardiac arrhythmias or arrhythmia alone. But before that, let's talk about the heart conduction system. Okay? Again, this is our heart conduction system. And for the heart conduction system, please take note of the following anatomical structure. Okay, so this is our heart here. On the right atrium, this is where we get to see our SA node. SA node means sinoatrial node. Now, this is what we call the pacemaker of the heart. This is where the impulse comes from, or the electricity or the conducted electricity comes from, and it will be distributed in the heart, okay, in the whole heart. So from the SA node, the electrical impulse will be conducted and it will be passed on into the AV node. So this is the atrioventricular node. When the electricity flows, class, that's the time our heart beats. Okay, muscles contract. So again, from the SA node, it will be passed on to the AV node, going to the atrioventricular bundles, and to the Purkinje fibers here. We have the His Purkinje system here that will conduct the electricity. Okay, so when the electricity reaches this part of the heart, meaning yan, class, magko-contract, magbibit yung ating heart. So this happened, the conductance happened in synchronous manner. Okay, when we have disturbance in the synchronous manner of the electrical conductance, that's the time we get to see arrhythmia in our patient. So ito yung steps na sinabi ko. It will start with the pacemaker, the sinoatrial node. This is where we generate our impulse here sa SA node. And then step 2, we have the ventricular node conduction. Okay? Tapos, it will be passed on the AV bundles, including the branches. Okay? And lastly, you have the Purkinje fibers impulse conduction. Before we'll move on to the action potential phases, that looking at this, diba, our conduction system has steps. We have SA node going to AV node, going to the bundles and the Purkinje fibers. However, meron yung sa VTAC na sinasabi ko, we have parts here or a part here in the ventricles that generate an impulse, making an irregular heart or heart beating here in the ventricles. Okay, so pwedeng isa lang siya. And ano yung part na yun? Bakit siya mag-generate ng impulse? It may be because of a scarred tissue, especially if the patient already experienced a myocardial infarction or heart attack, or yung pinanganak na like merong butas ang heart, may mga irregular or may mga structural defects sa heart nila. Pwede kasi yung mag-generate ng impulses causing VTAC or ventricular tachycardia. So the ventricles are having tachycardia, the rate is more than 100. Yung VFib kanina, yun yung pinaka-dangerous talaga class kasi it's not just one part of the ventricle generating an impulse, but you have a lot of like parts here that will generate a lot of impulse also. So, kung maraming impulse yun, naglibog na ang imuhang heart muscles on how to contract. Kasi one impulse would mean one contraction and you have a lot here. So, definitely, it will just cause fibrillation. When you say fibrillation, the muscles of the heart will just quiver. It will not really contract fully. Kung nakita ninyo ang video kagain ng ano lang siya, no? Hindi ako siya ma-describe, pero wala siya nag-contract o as in full contraction, nag-quiver lang siya. Muscle twitching lang ang mahitabo. Like, di ba? You know muscle twitching, right? Like, parehas sa imuhang nawong, if you're very stressed, minsan may feel ka dito na like muscle contractions, small muscle contractions, yun ang mangyayari sa heart. So definitely, it will not really push enough blood and the body will lack supply of oxygen. Okay, so again, that's like muscle twitching only. So once in our lifetime, all of us class, even once lang, makaka-experience talaga ng muscle twitching. Most of that happens in our eyes or in our face. And that's actually an indication that you are stressed. So you really have to rest. Okay? Normal lang ang eye twitching. Definitely, it's not normal. It is also an indication that your eyes are already stressed. So you really have to rest also. Okay? So like that happens if you like overuse your eyes. Like you read a lot of something, a book, whatever, or you play video games the whole day, you use your cell phone the whole day without enough rest, you will really experience eye twitching. So definitely it's not normal. All you need to do, class, is rest. Okay? And that is the same thing with our face. If you experience muscle twitching with your face, you also have to rest. Okay? Sige. Do you have questions? Amo na siya, kanang nagapitik-pitik. Amo na siya like that. We call that muscle twitching. No, that's contractions. Rapid contractions of the muscle, and yung kanyang contraction, class, does not involve enough relaxation. Yung muscle mo continually nagpo-contract, wala siyang relaxation phase. Kaya ka nakaka-experience ng, kaya ka ng pitik-pitik na yung ginaingon. Muscle twitching. Okay? Anything else? So sa heart, that may also happen. We call that VFib. But our atrium can also experience irregular rhythm. if you have impulses, you have problem with your SA node, or you really have a problem with your atrium, wherein parts of your atrium will also release a lot of impulse. Okay? So, magkakaroon ng arrhythmia dyan. So, ano ba yung electrical conductance na yan? Kasi, kanina pa tayo nagdi-discuss, di ba sabi, pag arrhythmia, you have a problem with the electricity, the conductance of the electricity in your heart. So ganito kasi yung nangyayari, class. We have the so-called action potential in our heart. And we have phases here in the action potential. Please be familiar with these phases. You really need to know the name of these phases, and at the same time you need to know what happens during that certain phase. So let's start with the zero. Phase zero is called the upstroke or depolarization. Na-mention ko na sa inyo last time anong ibig sabihin ng depolarization. Noon sa ganit meaning, ana? What do you mean by depolarization? If our cell experiences depolarization, what happened to the cell?
Lost siya og resting membrane, ma'am.
Ano ito? Naging more positive. Okay, very good. Naging more positive ang inside ng cell. Okay? Kasi yung ating cell membrane, class, involves like electrical current. Meron siyang voltage na tinatawag. And if ever the inside of the cell is more positive than the outside, that's the time we call it depolarization. Okay? Or the upstroke. And then one is early fast repolarization. Again, repolarization is the reverse of depolarization. When you say repolarization, like the inside of the cell is like dropping in terms of its voltage, meaning bumababa yung kanyang voltage. And then we have the plateau, the repolarization, talagang magiging more negative yung inside ng cell compared to the outside. And 4 is the diastole. Okay? So, anong mangyayari dyan? Ito, class, yung nangyayari during our action potential. So, let's try to identify the phases of our action potential starting from 0. Let us 4. Remember, 4 is diastole. 4 is when our heart relaxes. Okay? Kaya tinawag siyang diastole. Remember when you measure the blood pressure, the last part, yung sa baba na part, the bottom part is called the diastole. And we have discussed that during diastole, the heart relaxes and the muscle will stretch because it will accommodate blood. Okay? So that is also true with the action potential. When you say 4, it is where the heart relaxes. Okay? And then, if you say 0, again, that is upstroke or depolarization. So as you can see, you have here an upward movement of the action potential. Why? What happened during the phase 0? Take note of this. Sodium in, meaning this is the time wherein sodium channels open and sodium, the sodium ion, will go inside the cell. And remember, since sodium is a positively charged ion and it enters the cell, that makes the inside of the cell more positive. Okay? So again, we call that upstroke or depolarization. Now, the phase 1 is early fast repolarization. This happens quickly. Pero repolarization, meaning the inside, the charge inside the cell is like dropping quickly. What happened here? We have potassium out. Okay, potassium goes outside the cell. That is why the inside of the cell is losing charge. Now, 2 is plateau. Bakit plateau siya? Kasi though merong movement of the ions, but the voltage or the current is not really affected. Kasi magpapantay lang siya. So plateau ang tawag dyan, walang movement. Ano yung mangyayari during the phase 2? You have potassium out. Although potassiums are going outside the cell, however, it will be exchanged with calcium. So calcium will inside the cell and that will be balanced. So there is no really an effect in terms of the voltage. And then 3 here is going downward. Why? Because we have here the repolarization. So the calcium influx can no longer balance since there is more potassium na lumalabas sa cell. So again, though there is still calcium that are going inside in the cell, it can no longer balance because of the bulk of potassium ions going outside. Now, after repolarization, you again have the diastole. So your heart again relaxes. So what can we conclude here? We can conclude here that our heart, remember, beats because of electrical impulse. And where does the electrical impulse come from? It's from our ions. Meaning ito yung source ng ating electrical impulses in the heart and they cause the heartbeat. They cause the heart to contract. So that is the reason why these ions are very important in our body. And during the times that we get to experience electrolyte imbalance, since we call them electrolytes also, again, during the times we get to experience electrolyte imbalance during the case like diarrhea, that will also affect our hearts also. So remember, you will have lacking sodium, potassium, or even calcium if you have electrolyte imbalance. So how can your heart contract properly if you lack these electrolytes? Okay, so please be familiar with the phases, the action potential phases, kung paano, anong nangyari dyan. Okay, so ito yung makikita natin in the ECG. Okay, sino nakatry dito mag-ECG? Ito yung class. When you say ECG, that's electrocardiogram. It's actually the body's manifestation of the depolarization and repolarization waves of the heart. Actually, di ba, nilalagyan lang yan ng parang patch connected to the ECG mismo sa surface sa skin natin. Actually, the movement of the ions like sodium going inside, potassium going outside, and calcium going inside, meron yan siyang effect on our skin, in our body surface. Okay? And yan yung mini-measure ni ECG. Movement of that in the skin will also be recorded as waves in the result of the ECG. So please take note of this normal ECG waves. Kapag isang wave dyan na wala, automatically, class, you will be diagnosed with arrhythmia. Okay? Kung nawala or hindi ganyan yung kanyang mukha, hindi ganyan ang kanyang shape, automatic there is something wrong in your heart and you may have arrhythmia. Okay? So we have here the P wave. This is just a small wave, class. And then remember, you have here the diastole. And then you have here the QRS complex. This is the tallest wave in the ECG. And then followed by the T wave. So everything should be included and should be seen in our ECG for you to conclude that yes, you have a normal and healthy heart. So the result should always look like this for you to have an normal heart. Okay, so as you can see, you have here the P wave. Let me draw. You have here the P wave followed by the QRS and the T wave. And paulit-ulit yan siya. And please take note that the distance between them, between these QRS waves, should be tawag niyan, magkakapare-pareho. Okay? So, equal dapat yung distances. So, kasi merong mga cases class like they have all the waves. P waves are seen in their ECG, QRS are also there, and the T waves are also visible, but they have like yung irregular distances between each other that is still a part or a type of arrhythmia. So what happens during the P wave? So remember the P wave is the small wave plus in the ECG ha. Ayan, sorry. Okay, so yan yung P wave natin. So take note that P wave is generated by atrial depolarization. Okay, so when the atrium becomes excited, why? Why it becomes excited? Because there is influx of like positive ions inside the cell. So nagkakaroon ng depolarization. The inside of the cell becomes more positive. Remember I told you that if the inside of the cell becomes more positive, that means the cells become excited. Okay? So during this time, there is atrial depolarization, and that means there is contraction of the atrium. And this will generate the P wave. Do you remember the atrium is just a small part of the heart compared to the ventricle? So most likely, you will have a small wave here in the ECG. Okay? So yung body surface lang manifestation, yan lang yung nire-record ng ECG ha. Now how about the QRS wave? Remember, this is the tallest wave that we have in the ECG, and this is generated by ventricular muscle depolarization. So definitely if we compare class atrium and ventricle, the ventricles are large. So definitely if it depolarizes, the cells there become excited because of the movements of positive ions inside, then you will really have a very tall wave. Okay? Mataas talaga kasi malaki din yung ating ventricles. And the T wave is generated by ventricular repolarization. So this is another small wave, but this time it will be ventricular repolarization. So it is where yung ating heart is like almost relaxing already kasi bumabalik na siya, like nababawasan na yung kanyang voltage inside the cell. Okay, so if these waves are disrupted, parts of the waves are not visible in the ECG, that's the time we have arrhythmia. Arrhythmia is also called class dysrhythmia. Dysrhythmia din, parehas lang yan sila. So what happened during arrhythmia? The patient may experience irregular heartbeat. So pwedeng the heart may beat too fast. We call that tachycardia. But take note that not all tachycardia can be considered as arrhythmia. Anong example dyan? During exercise or like you are doing a heavy work, definitely we will expect that our heart will also work fast. Okay? To supply the needed oxygen. So definitely during exercise, it's normal for you to have tachycardia. It's normal for you to have a too fast na heartbeat, that it will be more than 100. So normal lang yun siya. Hindi normal class na if you are at rest, like what you are doing right now, I believe some of you are lying down, some of you are sitting down, you are not doing anything, and then you have a fast heartbeat. Yan yung hindi normal. Okay, yan yung hindi normal na tachycardia. And then, we also have arrhythmia wherein the heart beats too slowly. Okay, so the beating is less than 60. We call that bradycardia. Pero again, during rest class, it is also normal that we experience bradycardia. Since we are not doing something, the requirement for oxygen in our body is not high. So definitely our heart will not really work very fast. So it's normal, especially during sleep. We can experience bradycardia. It's normal. What's normal here is the reverse. If you are like doing a heavy work and if you are going to measure your heartbeat, it's less than 60, that's not normal. We call that bradycardia. Okay? So if it is not too fast or not slowly but too early. We call that premature contraction. Kasi kailangan synchronous yan. Synchronous yung pagbeat ng heart. Impulse, pag-generate ng impulse, and then magbibit yung ating heart. Okay, synchronous yan siya. If example, there is like premature impulse na nangyari, hindi pa tapos magtrabaho yung naunang impulse, hindi pa talaga siya totally umabot sa lahat ng parts of the heart for it to contract, meron ka nang na-generate na another impulse na naman. So, most likely, may mga premature contraction ka dyan sa parts ng heart mo, example, in the atrium, that is still arrhythmia. And ito yung problem natin if too irregular. Your heart rate is irregular. We call that class fibrillation. Okay? When you say fibrillation, minsan bilis, minsan in one cycle, you have like mabilis na heartbeat tapos biglang magsuslow down and the other way around na naman. Again, we call that fibrillation. Okay? So yung mga impulses natin sa heart dyan can originate from different parts. Hindi talaga on the sinoatrial node. Maraming parts sa heart ang nagpo-produce ng impulse kaya nagpe-fibrillate, nagpo-quiver na lang ang heart. Hindi na siya mag-contract properly. Okay, so that's what again we call as arrhythmia. Do you have questions? Or natulog na mo din ha? Balik nagkatulog. I'm speaking here pero actually katulugan kay ko. I'm trying to wake up myself. Wala yung pangutana. This is actually how I wake up myself. Parang, sige ko inom tubig. That's how I wake up myself. Even if I study during college, if I want to wake up, kasi pala tulog man jud ko. And then I have a lot to study. So if I want to wake up, akong ginahimo jud inom jud tubig pero that's how I wake up myself. I don't drink coffee. It will cause too fast heart. Coffee can cause tachycardia. So I don't drink coffee. But I know na coffee can really wake up a lot of people now, so that's why they are fond of drinking coffee. Pero it's not for me. Kaya dili na ko gusto ang lasa sa kape. Mo na ang pinaka reason why I don't drink coffee. Dili na ko gusto ang lasa sa kape. Anything na kanang nailasa nga inomon, dili ko ganahan. Baliktad ni Ma'am MJ. Si Ma'am MJ gusto siya nailasa. Ako dili ko gusto. Gusto na ko like blunt, like water. That's how I wake up myself. Magay na pa ako sige ng tubig. Kay katulugon, kaya ako feeling nga 9:30 man siguro ko natulog gabi, pero kung katulugon gyapon kay ko. Anyway, let's talk about the factors that trigger arrhythmia. Okay, again, these are the factors that may trigger arrhythmia. Oo, friend. Ay, Pauline. Asa naman ka na dito? Late na ka. Okay, again, factors that trigger arrhythmia. Number 1, we have ischemia. What do you mean by ischemia?
Insufficient na ma'am? Blood flow. Ma'am, anong pinagkaiba ng ischemia and hypoxia, ma'am?
Sige, ito silang isa-isa ko. Hypoxia. Sa inyo nabalaan about hypoxia. Kumusta akong pangutan?
Low ang ma'am?
Low ang?
Oxygen sa blood.
Okay.
Hindi ko sure, ma'am.
Sulat na to. Low. Right? Low oxygen. Sige. That's hypoxia. Hypo, di ba? Dili ko na siya tawagan ng hypooxia kay double O na no. Hypo means remember bababa. Oxia means oxygen. Okay, sige. How about ischemia? Ano yung alam niyo about this? Wala. Sige. Ito kasing ischemia class. We have here, bababa. Ay, hindi pala ako makalagay ng arrow. Ilagay ko na lang. Reduction in blood supply. So the reduction is in blood supply may be anatomical. When you say anatomical, pwedeng merong blockade, like in the case of atherosclerotic plaques. Diba pag if this is your arteries, okay, if this is your arteries class, merong atherosclerotic plaque here, and that will make your arteries narrow. So definitely, there will be a reduction in blood flow, and that means the supply will also be low. Okay? So, insufficient. This is, again, anatomical. May mga blockade dyan, hindi makakapass through yung blood, so there will be no enough blood supply. That's ischemia. So, example, in the heart, if your heart experiences ischemia, meaning kulang yung blood supply sa heart mo. Okay? Siguro yung mga arteries sa heart, nag-clog na doon yung atherosclerotic plaque, tapos na ano pa dyan, napilan pa dyan og clotting because of the platelets. So magkakaroon ng clotting dito. So masisirado. Makukulang yung blood supply. That's ischemia. Yung hypoxia kasi, pwede kasing enough naman yung blood supply mo. Nakuha nyo? Pwede namang enough yung blood supply. Wala namang blockade. Pero talagang mababa lang yung oxygen sa body. That's hypoxia. Nakuha yung difference. Okay? So again, ischemia has something to do with the supply of blood, and it may be because of some hindrances in the blood flow. And definitely, the thing there is makukulang pa rin ng oxygen. Okay? Kasi example, yung part ng body mo na wherein yung blood mo hindi na naka-flow ng maayos, makukulang doon ng oxygen kasi kulang ng blood supply. Si hypoxia, hindi siya totally because of the blood supply. Pwede kasing meron talagang blood supply pero mababa talaga ang oxygen sa body. Okay? Example, in the case of like carbon monoxide poisoning. Diba? Saan ba natin makikita yung carbon monoxide? I still remember. I think I have mentioned that in your Pharm Chem 1. First year pa mo ato, wala pa nag-pandemic. Saan nga natin makikita yung carbon monoxide? Ako teacher ninyo Pharm Org. No, feeling na ako yung teacher sa Pharm Org. Saan na natin makikita yung carbon monoxide? CO. Remember carbon monoxide class, example, makukuha natin yan siya sa sakyanan. Tambutso, bugas sa tambutso sa sakyanan. Yes, tama, like sa motor. Sa tambutso sa motor, carbon monoxide. Okay? So, kapag sumasakay ka ng example, sakyanan ninyo class, it's normal for you na katulugon ka kasi your body experiences like hypoxia. Kasi, matatalo kasi ni carbon monoxide si oxygen inside our body. Like, example, sa imuhang blood. Normal imuhang blood supply. Wala kay problem with your blood. So, remember, di ba sa blood, you have here the RBC, and the RBC class has the hemoglobin. And then si hemoglobin, siya talaga yung nagpa-carry ng oxygen. So yan yung nangyayari. Pero in the case of carbon monoxide, si hemoglobin class, ang i-carry niya, instead of oxygen, ang i-carry niya is carbon monoxide. So that is in a sense form of hypoxia. Mas mataas kasi ang affinity. I think that is 210 times more affinity ng carbon monoxide kaysa sa oxygen. So kaya nakakamatay din yung carbon monoxide. Okay? So muna na if you are going to have long drive, like by land lang kayo from Jensen going to Manila, make sure to really like merong mga stops and merong pwede niyong like buksan yung bintana ng sasakyan niyo kahit as in maliit lang para lang meron kayong supply of oxygen. Kasi talagang matatalo ng carbon monoxide yung oxygen dyan sa body ninyo. Okay? So, and again, that is the reason why kanang katulugon dito always nasa kayo og sakyanan. Ang utok na to class may have lack in the supply, deficiency in the supply of oxygen. Okay? Anything else? Before tayo mag-move on. Wala. Diba? Wait lang. Okay. So aside from ischemia and hypoxia class, acidosis or alkalosis may also trigger arrhythmia. When you say acidosis, our pH is below normal, syempre, and alkalosis is above normal. Ano nga yung normal pH natin? Sige daw, if you can still remember. Ano yung normal pH natin sa body? Okay, very good. It's between, it's between 7.35 to 7.45. Ay, ganyan. Ayan. Again, that's our normal pH in the body. Again, it's between 7.35 to 7.45. If you have acidosis class, your pH is below 7.35, especially if it is really below 6.8. Kasi yung between 6.8 to 7.2, parang pwede pa. Like, hindi pa talaga masyadong ganun yung masyadong malaki yung effect in the body. But if it is really lower than 6.8, that's the time the patient experiences acidosis. The pH is very acidic, especially in the blood. And for alkalosis, that's more than 7.45, especially if the pH is like really above 7.8. That's the time the body will really manifest the signs and symptoms of the alkalosis. So remember, the body maintains this range of pH class, and this is where our body, our organs, and even our biomolecules in the body function also. Kapag hindi siya pumasok dyan sa range na yan, our organs again may not function properly. Yung mga biomolecules natin, especially our proteins, our amino acids, they will not work if the pH is like below or above the normal range. So hindi yan sila again magtatrabaho. And then remember also, our electrolytes also need this pH para maging ions talaga sila. And remember, our heart beats because of these ions. They are our source of impulses in the body. So again, if they don't work properly because we have too much high pH or too low pH, then that will really trigger arrhythmia. Aside from that, syempre, the electrolyte imbalance itself. I have mentioned that a while ago. So like during diarrhea, it's not really enough for you to just drink water. Kasi water is just H2O. Especially if you drink purified or distilled water, that's just H2O class, and wala yan siyang kasaling. Unlike mineral water na meron talaga siyang minerals, no? Pero again, during diarrhea, you really have to replenish not just the water, but also the electrolytes. So it is advisable for you to drink electrolyte drinks. Sa pharmacy, we have the Hydrate. Yung Hydrate kasi brand na lang na. I don't know not really familiar with the other brands of our like Orisol, mga oral na mga replenishment solutions natin. Or kung wala talaga, pwede naman Gatorade. Pero please, do not drink this electrolyte drinks if you don't have electrolyte abnormalities, if you don't have electrolyte imbalance. Kasi wala kang electrolyte imbalance tapos uminom ka ng marami nito, magkaka-imbalance ka class, pero it's the other way around. Masyadong dadami yung sodium, yung potassium, and the other minerals in your body. And yes, hindi din pwede na masyadong madami yun. Masama pa rin yun sa body. And it may also trigger arrhythmia. Imagine you have a lot of like electrolytes in the body and these are our source of impulses. Masyado kung maraming source of impulses. Yes, it can also trigger arrhythmia. Kulang man siya or marami siya. Basta beyond normal. Talagang hindi siya pwede. Okay? And then excessive catecholamine exposure. I don't know in your pickle 1 if you have discussed the catecholamines. Have you discussed? Ano nga yung catecholamines natin? Can you still remember our catecholamines? Or dili na ma-remember? What do you mean by catechol? Yeah, catecholamines are endogenous in our body. They are produced in our body. In your pharmacognosy, siguro nakalimutan na ninyo, no? Pag sinabing catechol class, ito yon. Okay. That this is the catechol. You have a benzene ring and you have two adjacent hydroxide. Catechol ang tawag dyan. So, pag sinabing catecholamines, syempre ito yung merong ganito sa structure. Okay? We have here catecholamines. And what are these substances that are considered catecholamines? Syempre, you have the epi, the norepi, and the dopamine. Okay? So, tatlo yan sila ha. They are considered catecholamines. Are you familiar with their structures? Ipa-draw ni sa inyo ha sa pickle 1. Actually, nakalimutan ko ano sa ilang structure. Wait, let me check na lang. Kasi this is the phenylethylamine. And then the dopamine looks like, ay wala nung nag-drawan eh. Phenylethylamine. Ayan, this is the dopamine. The phenylethylamine is actually the dopamine. This is the dopamine. Ito ha, itong dinro ko na structure, dopamine yan siya. Tapos, si norepi, may dagdag lang tayo na OH sa norepi. I'm not mistaken. Yeah, correct. Naka-remember pa dito sa iyang structure. Hindi lang for sure. Bugay na ko nag-draw na ilang structure. Dagan mo siya ng OH dito. Ayan na yung norepi. So, di ba, nag-review tayo paano nabuo si norepinephrine. Di ba, galing siya kay dopamine. So, ang difference, the only difference that they have is this one. Dagdagan mo siya ng OH, magiging norepi na siya. And then, if you have norepi, tapos aabot siya doon sa adrenal medulla, doon ka makakaproduce ng norepinephrine. And the only difference that they have is this one. Okay? Tama ba? Let us check. Or ako nang sure. Yeah, tama. So as you can see, class, they have all the structures of a catechol. Okay, again, remember this is your catechol here. Okay. Baliktad na ko siya ha, just to illustrate the binding na it's on the oxygen and not on the hydrogen. Kaya naging HO yan siya dyan. Okay, so ito yung mga catecholamines natin, class. And remember that all of them can cause sympathetic na effects. Okay? Especially in the heart if they activate the beta-1 receptors. So, di ba, pag if they activate the beta-1 receptors, heart rate will be increased, the force of the contraction will also increase, and at the same time, the conductance velocity of the heart will also increase. So if you have excessive exposure to these substances, this may also trigger arrhythmia. Pinakalas na structure, epi. Dopa, norepi, and epinephrine. Let me just add, I just don't know kasi if this one has been emphasized in your Pickle 1. Remember, this is catechol, right? And ito yung nare-recognize ng COMT. Okay? Nagani yung COMT. Ito yung enzyme, di ba, na nagde-degrade yan. Meaning ng COMT catechol O methyl transferase. Again, this is one of the enzymes kasi yung isa monoamine oxidase, nasa loob ng cell yon. Ito, nasa gut, nasa blood, si catechol O methyl transferase, and ito yung target niya, si catechol mismo. So, if ma-recognize niya yung substance na, meron siyang catechol, i-degrade niya yon, i-destroy niya yon. So, definitely, ma-destroy like si dopamine, si norepi, and si epinephrine. Sorry, it's not in the blood. It's in the gut, gastrointestinal tract. So, this is the reason why, class, na hindi mo talaga makikita si dopamine, si norepinephrine, and si epinephrine na binibigay, ina-administer orally. Kasi again, COMT is found there, and remember that they have catechols in their structure, and they will easily be destroyed or degraded by COMT. Therefore, we only give dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine via the parenteral route. It may be via IV, but we can also give them, especially epinephrine, we can also give them intramuscularly. But just don't give them orally because of the presence of COMT. So may mga modifications na ginawa dyan. Pag matanggal mo kasi kahit isang OH lang dyan sa catechol na yan, especially if dalawa talaga yung matatanggal, hindi na yan siya ma-recognize ng COMT. So yan yung time na yung drug, pwede mo na siyang i-administer orally. Kagaya ng phenylephrine. Diba? Phenylephrine acts on the alpha-1 receptor, causing vasoconstriction. And it's one of the ingredients or the content of our nasal decongestants. And as you can see, like Neozep, Decogen, they are given orally. Kasi if you're going to look at the structure of phenylephrine, I cannot remember the structure, but I think nawala yung isa or both of the OH there. So COMT can no longer identify that. Hindi na siya ma-destroy. Okay? So anyway, wala, segue lang na siya. Just for you to know bakit hindi natin binibigay si dopa, si norepi, and si epinephrine orally. Okay? And then aside from that, autonomic influences, that is still about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. Remember, norepi, dopamine can cause increase in the heart function, but take note that the other way around, the acetylcholine, dumbbells, B for dumbbells is bradycardia. That's one type of arrhythmia also. So again, autonomic influences can also trigger arrhythmia. If you have excessive of these catecholamines and acetylcholine, again, pwede pa rin siyang mag-trigger ng arrhythmia. Drug toxicity, especially digoxin. So this is the reason why we really have to monitor the patient taking digoxin. Kasi excessive intake of that may lead to arrhythmia. Remember, the digoxin, the digitalis drugs can increase the force of contraction, but at the same time, it can also trigger the rate. It can increase the rate. So definitely, papunta pa rin siyang arrhythmia. And please take note, that's a board exam question. The life-threatening toxicity or toxic effect of digoxin is arrhythmia. Okay? And then overstretching of the cardiac fibers may also trigger arrhythmia. And at the same time, presence of scarred or diseased tissues. Like in the case of patient na nakasurvive sa myocardial infarction. But remember, during myocardial infarction class, merong tissues in the heart na namamatay. And scarred na yon. Forever scarred ang kanilang heart, and that damage in the heart tissues may create impulses, and yun yung magte-trigger ng arrhythmia. Okay? So itong overstretching of the cardiac fibers, depende kung ano yung na-experience ng patient. So pwedeng during heart failure, pwedeng because of drugs, nag-overstretch yung kanilang heart muscles. Kaya nag-trigger siya ng arrhythmia. Okay? So I think it's already time. Yeah, it's 8:56. I'll be continuing my discussion on Monday. So wala pa tayo quiz on Monday. And then pag natapos ko siya on Monday, we will be starting chapter 21 on Wednesday.